Ladies and gentlemen, today's video is all about the Women's Intercontinental Championship Tournament. Because if you've been sleeping under a rock, or maybe you just WWE very closely over the last couple of weeks, the WWE recently announced two sets of women's mid-card championships. Finally, we have the United States Championship over on Friday Night SmackDown and the Women's Intercontinental Championship here on Monday Night Raw. There is a 12-woman tournament that has already been announced, so in today's video, we're going to go through all 12 of the women that are in this tournament, and I'm going to tell you whether I like them or don't like them to be the first ever, the inaugural Women's Intercontinental Champion. And I'm going to be fair. I'm going to give pros and cons to everybody. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're going to fall in love with his YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. And I really do mean it. It's a Sunday. I'm on vacation in Colombia and we are still uploading daily YouTube videos. That is what we do here, ladies and gents. But if you want even more than just daily videos, consider checking out the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap. I'll put the link in the description for you as well as the link in the pinned comment. We upload so many more videos over there that never get uploaded to YouTube. So go check it out. But now let's jump into it. Before we jump into talking about every single one of the women individually, I want to talk about the entire tournament bracket as a whole, which you can see on screen right now. Here's the thing, when you look at this tournament bracket, it is a stark, quick, nasty, cold reminder of how much weaker the Raw women's division is compared to, of course, NXT, who has the greatest women's division on the planet right now, but also Friday Night SmackDown, who's also doing a tournament of this exact same format, and a tournament that just has so much more star power than what we're seeing here on Monday Night Raw. And I don't think that that's the fault of the women that are in this tournament. I think it's the fault of the WWE for not doing a particularly great job of building the women's undercard outside of Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. As that championship has been kind of just stuck in that vacuum, the rest of the women's division has just sort of been left to flounder and not really have meaningful storylines, matches, and feuds. Like, let's quickly run down through the tournament bracket. In the top left, we have Dakota Kai, somebody who for the last year and a bit has been in a faction and hasn't really been featured heavily as a singles competitor. We have Shayna Baszler, somebody who's in a faction and in the last several months has not been featured very heavily as a singles competitor. We have Katana Chance, who has never been featured as a singles competitor. Moving on to the next match, we have Zoe Stark, who in the last several months has not been featured as a singles competitor. Raquel Rodriguez, that's a legit entry. Kaden Carter has never been featured as a singles competitor. Lyra Valkyria has not appeared on screen in months, seemingly, after coming to the main roster with such a great set of momentum going into the Queen of the Ring tournament. Zelina Vega has been a background character and a manager for the LWO, hardly being featured as a singles competitor. Ivy Nile, that's a legit option. Alba Fire has never been featured on the main roster as a singles competitor. Kairi Sane, since returning to the WWE, has not been featured as a singles competitor, and Natalya seems to just be used whenever they need extra body and extra women. So as you can see, compare it to SmackDown, who had the likes of Michin and Chelsea Green, who were having great singles mid-card runs. You look at Tiffany Stratton, the star power brought by Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. Yes, they're a tag team, but the star power of them is undeniable. Bayley, Naomi, it is absolutely night and day when you look at the tournament bracket here on Monday Night Raw versus the insanely stacked tournament bracket from the Friday Night SmackDown Women's United States Championship. So I wanted to point this out because unfortunately it almost feels like the WWE is wanting to use this Women's Intercontinental Championship to revive their dead women's mid-card and undercard division, which I don't think is entirely fair, but I do hope that it works because it's now giving these women something to have matches for of substance and meaning. Anyways, that's enough being a bit of a Debbie Downer. Let's jump into every single individual competitor and let's run them down real quick as to why I think they could be a good inaugural Intercontinental Champion, or maybe perhaps why not. So we're starting off with Shayna Baszler. Now, she's already been eliminated from this tournament because I'm making this video a couple of days after the tournament has already started, but I think she's worth talking about nonetheless. So obviously, she's not going to be your inaugural Women's Intercontinental Champion. However, I could have seen this happening, especially after seeing the WWE's reformation and reconstruction of Shinsuke Nakamura, somebody who was seen as a main event talent that kind of went by the wayside, that's just sort of been hovering above water over the last couple of years. That is kind of a one-to-one description of Shayna Baszler, somebody that was seen as a main event talent. They never pulled the trigger on her, and she's just sort of been floating on water for the last several years. So if you wanted to revive Shayna Baszler's dangerous aura, just like they did with Shinsuke Nakamura, this could have been a great way. So that would have been one of the reasons why I would have gone with Shayna Baszler. The reason why I wouldn't is because of the poor booking of Shayna Baszler as a single star over the last several months. She's been part of PFC, been part of the women's tag team division, and has not really seemed like this dangerous, scary threat as a single superstar. So for me and you and everybody at home to all of a sudden just snap their fingers and just believe that Shayna Baszler out of the blue should be the first inaugural women's singles Intercontinental champion is a bit of a stretch compared to how she's been booked over the last several months. So it would just be a bit of a disconnect between her booking and the end result of her being the inaugural champion. It just wouldn't make a heck of a lot of sense. Katana Chance has also been eliminated from this tournament. However, her showing at this tournament was fantastic. I never once saw her as a potential threat to win this because she has never once on the main roster been featured as a singles competitor. And for the majority of her time in NXT, she was not featured as a singles competitor. For the most part, she has been a career tag team wrestler in the WWE umbrella. That being said, that match that she had a great showing, and I hope that perhaps they can use this match as a launching pad to giving Katana Chance a bit more of a chance as a single star, because I think she impressed the hell out of all of us. But again, the fact that she had been a perennial forever tag team member of the WWE roster was an easy way to just tell you that she wasn't going to win this at all. But if you wanted to shock the world and you wanted to push a brand new star, you could have done it with Katana Chance. But again, it would have been such a stretch for wrestling fans to disassociate her booking as exclusively tag team to all of a sudden being booked incredibly powerfully as a single star. It wouldn't have made a lot of sense. One of the crowd favorites and one of my favorites to win this tournament is Dakota Kai. However, Dakota Kai is also not without her baggage because of the booking of the women's division of the brand that she's been on, Monday Night Raw. So yes, Dakota Kai has been part of a faction for a really long time, part of Damage Control, and hasn't really been featured as a single star, but we know her potential as a single star. We saw her great run in NXT, so we know that if they just sort of flip the switch on her, it would be an easy route for fans to believe Dakota Kai having an excellent singles run. I don't think that that's entirely far-fetched. Unfortunately, what the WWE hasn't done, they haven't really done a great job of prepping us for a singles run for Dakota Kai. They've done, what, one match and a vignette reminding you that Dakota Kai is back and isn't only just a member of Damage Control. So WWE has kind of done one of the favorites of this tournament a bit of a disservice in terms of making her feel like a true and genuine threat, even though she is seen as a crowd favorite in this tournament. So why do I like Dakota Kai as a single star? Like I already said, we know that she can be a great singles competitor. I think that her winning singles gold could add an interesting wrinkle and dichotomy to Damage Control, and we just know that she can carry herself as a single star. The reason why she shouldn't is just because WWE hasn't really booked her as a credible single star, which has been the problem with many of the women that we've just talked about and many of the women that we're about to talk about. So it's a symptom of just poor WWE women's undercard booking. Zoe Stark. I mean, like, you could literally just take what I said about Shayna Baszler and kind of put it here. However, it's not as deep as it would be for like Shinsuke Nakamura or Shayna Baszler, because they have years of being seen as untapped potential, as missed opportunities for the WWE. Zoe Stark, on the other hand, only has about a year of that thought and feeling amongst fans. Let's not forget that she joined the WWE when she was called up from the main roster and was just sweeping through things, being inserted into a major feud with Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch, which then led her to having numerous championship opportunity matches during Rhea Ripley's run, which included a singles match at last year's Survivor Series. So clearly, at one point or another, she was seen as somebody that could be a future leader in the WWE women's division when it comes to single stardom. However, in the last several months, and again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, they have not done a great job of booking her as a single star. She's just sort of been stuck in tag team purgatory, and a lot of her dangerous aura as a single star has just disappeared into the ether because WWE hasn't done a great job of booking the women's undercard on the main roster of Monday Night Raw. Am I starting to sound like a broken fucking record yet? But I guess similar to Shayna Baszler, if you want to reignite the career of Zoe Stark, you can do it with a singles championship gold victory right here. Okay, so you could, again, just sort of take everything I said about Katana Chance and put it here for Kayden Carter. Somebody that has never been seen as a single star on NXT or on the main roster is never going to be seen as a credible contender for the women's inaugural Intercontinental Championship. I love Katana Chance, I love Kayden Carter, but it just shows that their insertion into this tournament is a stark reminder of how weak the women's division is when it comes to single stars not named Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, or Liv Morgan. Never in a million years will anybody believe that somebody that's only been a tag team specialist, somebody who has spent more time in the last year of her career on the main roster appearing on main event as opposed to actual Monday Night Raw, that she's going to be a credible winner. She's a great talent, but again, the WWE has done her a very strong disservice as being seen as a credible contender to this tournament.
Sammy, run from the taser, Sammy.
Oh my God! Oh, dude, look at this. Good God.
Before, what a debut. What a debut.
That was a sneak peek of this week's Wrestling is Cool Match Club, available exclusively on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week, we're looking at the ridiculous WrestleMania 38 match between Sami Zayn and Johnny Knoxville in an anything goes match. We're looking at a wild intergender match between Penta El Zero Miedo versus Io Sky in Lucha Underground. We're looking at the short but awesome match between Brock Lesnar and Samoa Joe at Great Balls of Fire. What a dumb name for a show. We're also going to be watching the Big Boom AJ Costco guys match that he just had at AEW Full Gear's pre-show. And we're looking back at the debut of the Shield during the triple threat match at Survivor Series between John Cena, Ryback, and CM Punk. You're going to be getting these watch-alongs and more, like our Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days early, the currently ongoing Royal Rumble watch-alongs that we're doing, and the Undertaker WrestleMania match watch-alongs as well. Again, all of this is available exclusively on patreon.com. I'll put the link in the description, the link in the pinned comment. Come give it a try even for just 1 month, because I'm confident that you're going to fall in love with it. This is all content that just never gets uploaded to YouTube because we just simply can't. If you're already a patron, thank you so much for your support. It's the reason why I'm able to do this as much as I do. Thank you very much, and back to the video. I think a really strong contender that not enough people are talking about, and somebody that I really think could win this, is Raquel Rodriguez. Raquel Rodriguez, aside from her current stint being the bodyguard for Liv Morgan and her tag team run that she had a couple of times on the main roster, has pretty much just been seen as a dominant force in the women's singles division. She's had championship opportunities in NXT. She was an NXT Women's Champion and has always really been treated as a major threat in the women's division. And I just don't think that enough people are talking about her, probably because they don't like Raquel Rodriguez or they like other options more, because Raquel Rodriguez should be considered one of your favorites to win this tournament, even if you don't actually like Raquel Rodriguez. Because as you see the rest of this field that I've shown you, so many of the women that I've talked about and so many of the women that I have yet to talk about just have absolutely zero singles credibility as a superstar in the WWE because of their booking over the last several months or several years. That problem actually doesn't exist with Raquel Rodriguez. She is a force. And the fact that she was the one that beat Damage Control the other week, beat down Kairi Sane, actually took out Rhea Ripley, tells me that the WWE is a lot more willing to treat her like this dangerous threat that she was initially advertised to be when she came back at Bad Blood this year. I think that there's a really strong likelihood that Raquel Rodriguez wins this tournament. The reason why she wouldn't is because Rhea Ripley could get herself inserted into this match, which would cause one of the favorites, Raquel Rodriguez, to lose, similarly to how they were able to get out of Bianca Belair being the favorite to win the whole thing by having her written off due to outside interference. That could happen here with Raquel Rodriguez. But in terms of like as an on-paper favorite, it's probably Raquel. Zelina Vega is one of the darlings of the WWE fandom community that people want to see be pushed. And here's the thing, whenever they do push Zelina Vega, It's great. Like, it's always really good, really entertaining stuff. It's just that they haven't really given her a sustained push as a single star in the WWE. That's been the problem with Zelina Vega. It hasn't really helped that she's just sort of been inserted into the LWO, and she hasn't really been able to flourish as a single star as a member of the LWO. Again, not her fault. It's the fault entirely of the WWE's poor creative decision making and booking of the women's division outside of the main event. But we know that when she is given an opportunity to have a singles run, to enter the main event scene, whatever it is, she always grabs the ball and runs with it. She is a great option here. Unfortunately, she is maybe in the toughest inaugural first match of the tournament, going up alongside two honestly really strong contenders as well in Lyra Valkyria and Ivy Nile. So one of the reasons why perhaps I wouldn't give her this inaugural championship, and I don't think that it's a particularly good reason, really I'm just stretching here, is because she's just sort of a background character to something larger than she is, which is the Rey Mysterio storylines that he's a part of. And I would love for the women's Intercontinental Champion to be able to stand out on her own entirely. If they decide to have her leave the LWO, I think that'd be great. And having her as an Intercontinental Champion outside of the LWO would be even better. Lyra Valkyria, under 99.99999, repeating of course, of circumstances, would be one of the best options to win this Intercontinental Championship tournament. However, and it's just sort of the story of this video, is she hasn't been booked very well as a single star over the last several months. Hell, they had nothing for her on Monday Night Raw, so they sent her down to NXT to have a storyline with Tatum Paxley again. Now they're bringing her back, they're doing vignettes for her, and this is great. However, it does sort of feel like a rush job to get her ready potentially for Intercontinental Championship glory. I think that she should be considered your favorite to win this, but the WWE hasn't done a great job of making her feel like the favorite, because they're just sort of like, oh shit, we need women, bring back Lyra Valkyria, quick vignette, and she's in the tournament, and it's like, okay, let's just pretend like she's been a strong singles force this entire time, even though she clearly hasn't. And it's a shame, because she started as a strong singles force in the WWE immediately upon her call up from NXT, and just has sort of disappeared due to the lack of things to do for women in her category to do. But I do believe that she's a great choice here, but WWE has a lot of, no pun intended, damage control to have to do to try and fix what they've done in terms of technically doing nothing for the buildup of Lyra Valkyria. Ivy Nile kind of has the same problem as Zelina Vega, in that she is part of something bigger than her, which is American made, the storylines with Chad Gable. And if she were to win, I feel like the Women's Intercontinental Championship, the fact that it's the inaugural, like the aura of it would just sort of get sucked into American made as a whole, when I really feel it should be immediately sucked in by whoever it is that actually wins this tournament. And I just don't see Ivy Nile leaving American made anytime soon. Let's just be honest about that. So I don't see her as a credible, viable option here. But in terms of a dominant force, in terms of somebody that would be a believable champion, she actually fits the bill. It's just the current state of booking doesn't really reflect that. Pretty much just insert everything I said about Kaden Carter and Katana Chance right here for Alba Fire. She is somebody that has only been seen as a tag team star in the main roster and for the majority of her run in NXT. However, all right, if you haven't been watching NXT for very long, you would have missed her awesome singles run. She is a great singles wrestler. She just hasn't been portrayed as such at all. Not once, not 1 minute, not 1 second on the main roster. So why would you want to give her the Intercontinental Championship? Maybe it's you want to have a new single star that can cook in the ring and have fantastic matches, and absolutely you would have to dissolve the witches. You'd have to dissolve that and have Alba Fire go on entirely as a single star, and this could be a great way for her to have this coming out party, but I don't see it because of the poor booking that WWE has done in terms of making her a viable single star, which they haven't done. So since returning to the WWE's main roster, Kairi Sane has pretty much entirely been relegated to tag team wrestling, which makes it difficult for me to believe that she could have this breakout as a single star. But she just like Raquel Rodriguez is a former NXT Women's Champion, was a former single star in the WWE. So WWE knows that she can go, and the fans know that she can go. So it actually won't take a lot of rehabbing the image of Kairi Sane to just let her go wild and loose as the women's Intercontinental Champion. The problem is not necessarily believing her as a single star. It's just that she has been the pin machine for Damage Control for the past year. So her stock in terms of being like a dangerous threat is really low at the moment, unfortunately. So I don't see it happening, but I could actually see her winning the first match of the tournament. And last but not least, we have Natalya, everyone's least favorite, even though I love Natalya and I actually really like Natalya. But when you ask anybody on the internet, it seems like everyone hates Natalya, and I think that that's unfair. Let's not forget, Natalya helped carry women's wrestling during the late portions of the Divas era. Without Natalya, I don't know that we have the proper women's revolution that we ended up having. It truly was a pioneer in her work at a time where women's wrestling just was not a thing that WWE was featuring at all. And if they were featuring it, they weren't featuring it in a very, very positive light. And yet Natalya was somebody that was spearheading women's wrestling at that time in a very positive manner. So at the very least, she deserves your fucking flower. And maybe they want to give her the championship because of the legacy and lineage that she's left behind. Maybe this could be a thank you for her. She could be that inaugural champion, help create the initial legacy of this championship and pass it off to somebody else that could have that proper like career building run with the Intercontinental Championship, because that wouldn't be what Natalya does with this championship. This really would be about cementing her Hall of Fame career. But why wouldn't you give it to her? Well, because she's not going to do anything with it. Like I said, everyone else on this list could really catapult their careers with this victory. Natalya is already at the end of her career, folks. Like, this isn't going to do anything in terms of enhancing her position on the roster. Like, she's already cemented her legacy and her career. This would just be an extra cherry on top to her legacy as an in-ring competitor. So out of all of these, the one that I think is the best fit here is Lyra Valkyria, but WWE has to do a lot of damage control to fix the image that they've done of really hurting Lyra Valkyria as a single star over the last couple of months. But this is my pick. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Goodbye. Get out of here.